So, as always with Dune, as well as some pretty interesting news, good and bad. So, let's start off with Dune, and the good news is they're adding several new cast members, some very prestigious and a few unknowns. So, let's start off strong with Mark Strong, who will be playing one of the Carinos. So, that's interesting. I was worried, to be honest, that they were tipping it a little bit too far with too many women in the cast. I mean, it makes sense, it's Dune Sisterhood, but this definitely is reassuring news that it's going to be much more balanced than it appeared at first glance. Along with Mark Strong, we're going to have Travis, who plays some kind of mysterious soldier, presumably trying to curry political favor, and Mason, who is one of the Atreides, an ancestor of Paul's. So they definitely are adding at least a few strong male roles. They've also added a few more female roles, but I don't want to bury the lead. There's also some disturbing news that Diane, who was the showrunner for a while, has now stepped down, and the show running will be done by Allison. Her background is with Westworld, which I enjoy very much, but I can't deny that the last season we had was a little erratic, especially towards the end. Mostly a good season, but So some mixed news here that they definitely have some good people being added to the cast. A lot of these are very, very good actors, and that the show running duties are with someone who has experience and has a good resume, but it is a little mixed all over the place. I'll just add one interesting fact, which I don't think people emphasize enough with Mark Strong, because he's done a lot of work, especially with Shazam, where I thought he was really good. He was actually supposed to be Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. I know, it sounds crazy, but yes, he was slated to be Anton because originally Javier Bardem was not going to do it. They just weren't able to work out the schedule. But at the last minute, things got reconciled and he took over as Anton. But originally they were going to go with Mark Strong. I love the way that Javier played Anton, so I don't know what Mark would have done with that, but that's interesting if they would have gone with him. And now moving on to It. This will be a prequel series focused around obviously Pennywise and his slow rise and the way he's slowly taking over Derry and the response by the town. Now, if you know the films, it's a little strange the way they transformed the book because in the book, it moves basically from an earlier time period to the 1980s. But in the films, they begin with the 1980s and are moving forward. And the It series will work with the films. So they're using the film canon, not the book canon, and although I am supportive of what they're going to do with the prequel series, I do like the novel. I don't think it's one of King's best works. A lot of people think it is his best work, and he's never been able to top himself. I admire it just fine. It has a Dark Tower connection, so I like it. But as he has stated officially, he's not really a part of this. This is really a project by the Muschietis, and they're even getting some people who are connected with superhero work because now some people who did Wonder Woman are going to be joining the project. So it does seem to have a very talented cast, and the scenario is interesting. We're going to be following another set of losers, apparently, some set of young kids, and there's going to be the involvement of some kind of black veteran. So is this Halloran? I don't know. I would assume if they're using at least parts of the book, we're going to see some book characters who did not appear in the two films show up, but we'll have to wait and see. I am, however, nervous because King is not officially approving of this, as he said very definitively he's done with Pennywise. There's no more Pennywise stories. It's over. We're finished. If you want any more Pennywise from the Stephen King man himself, you're not going to get any. Which I think is a little disappointing. There's a little bit more of the story there. I agree. I mean, it is a massive novel, so I think he did what he wanted to do with the story. But I am interested what Muschietti will come up with. But I can't lie, this does seem like more of a money project, that they're just squeezing more out from the universe. Granted, a lot of people were sour with It Part 2 and wanted a little bit more from what they did with the story. So I'm thinking cynically that they probably did have a little bit more they could have included in the film, but now they saved it for the prequel series. A bit of iffy empire building with the Stephen King universe. But again, Stephen King adaptations have been all over the place. There are things that he endorses which were not very good, like The Dark Tower, which I admit has its good moments, but overwhelmingly, I think it was terrible. It was just a bad adaptation, not a very good film. And although I admire Idris Elba as an actor and Matthew McConaughey, I think was trying to do his best as Randall Flagg, it just didn't feel like the book at all. So he's endorsed some lousy films, and then there are films he doesn't like that have been adapted, which I think were pretty strong. So you don't want to go with King all the time, but I wouldn't be honest if I didn't suspect this is more of a money project than anything else. But we'll have to wait and see. So some good news with Dune adding more people. It seems like it's going to be in very strong hands as they're working in Hungary, which is also where Dune the sequel is also filming. But a little bit more mixed on it prequel series. A lot of good reassuring news, but it's not technically an official adaptation anymore. So there we are.